Okay, so the question is, could one of the speakers please explain the difference between what happened in Iran in 1979, which is often called an Islamic revolution, and what's been going on over the last few years, which has been called an Arab Spring. Please describe the difference between what happened in each of these movements.
That's the same. Doesn't matter. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Well, you're the Arab and Farsi speaker, so that's a bit unfair. I'm not sure, actually, that's probably a question I should ask, whether the Iranian Revolution was called Islamic from the beginning. I think we now take it as de facto as Islamic Revolution, but I think the dynamics were very much similar at the very beginning, with as much as, ex post facto, we see, of course, the importance of Khomeini, which of course was very important, but it was very much a left-wing or secular, nationalistic movement, a student movement at the beginning, which the Islamists were a part from the very beginning, but not the predominant part in Iran as well. The Islamic connotation of the revolution has come only later, when the dynamics is that, as we all know, the Islamist component quickly took over from those who started the revolution, which doesn't take a genius to understand where I'm getting at this, but the dynamic is quite similar. I'm not making exactly the analogy, but it's quite similar to what has happened in Egypt, for example. If on January 25th on Tahrir, you barely saw any Islamic reference whatsoever. And the Brotherhood, and this is what the liberals have often criticized the Brotherhood for, told its people at the beginning not to protest, not to go, not to participate. Only later, a few weeks later, jumped on the bandwagon, and only months later started taking advantage from a political point of view due to its better organization, taking political advantage of the revolution. So to some degree, I think the similarities are there between the two movements. Now, we don't know yet. It would be premature to say that this is the way the Tunisian or the Egyptian revolution are going to go. Trying to be an optimist here, I would still say that there's still a political system that is fair to call still democratic, with an electoral system in place that is democratic, with a court system, with a deep state that holds very little sympathies for the Brotherhood. And I think there's still an electoral system that we'll eventually see how it works out. But there are going to be elections. I think that'll be the fascinating question. We've seen throughout history a few examples of Islamist movements gaining power through the ballot box. We've never seen them step down, one way or the other, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Sudan, whether it's Iran. We've never seen lose an election, have an election, lose an election, and accept the democratic game and say, well, we lost, it'll be for next time. It has never happened. So that's a big question mark when it comes to Tunisia or Egypt, where there's still a system in place. There are elections in Egypt soon. Actually, the date is still debated, but there's a whole battle in court, but that'll be the big test. In Tunisia, what happened something that is somewhat normal. This comes from somebody who has seen, governments change in its country every five months. Government changes. So what happened in Tunisia is very similar to what happened in Italy, just a different government without having new elections. But in theory, there's still a system in place where there will be new elections. That's a big question mark, and that will set the difference between the Islamic Revolution of Iran and potentially these revolutions in Egypt and Tunisia.
Can I just add
one or two things? Of course.
Thank you. I'd just like to add to Lorenzo's very fine assessment a couple of contrasts between the Islamic Revolution and some of the revolutions that are underway at the moment. The first is that the clerical elites who have come to power in Iran are a different sort of network, a very tightly knit network, whose history goes back 250 years to the holy cities, especially of Qom, and during the Safavid Empire. They have been a unit for several centuries, and that is a kind of a contrast. The Muslim Brotherhood is just about a century old. And it is possible to have hierarchy in Shiism, a central command by contrast to many Sunni Islamist groups that have decentralized authority, one man, one Ayatollah, who has the authority to exercise free thinking, can issue a mandate for a new form of government, which he called Wilayat al-Faqih, the rule of the jurist, and everyone who supports him will fall in line. And that is novelty. Another important contrast to date is that the Iranian Revolution began in the upheavals that followed the fall of the Shah, but it was consolidated in war. Only a few years after the outbreak of revolution, the Iran-Iraq War began, instigated by Saddam, but there were early opportunities to end the war, and the Iranian parliament that had been convened by the new supreme leader voted to end the war, voted for a truce, but the leader himself overruled it and decided to carry it on, and it lasted for another decade, a decade in which Persian nationalism complemented the Islamist movement, and there was great national unity that might not otherwise have been. So I just thought I would add that. It brings the question of whether a war will emerge. There were questions at the beginning. It appears less likely now. And one more thing I'd like to add, just in case you worry that two of three guests are monopolizing the platform, that Mamdouh has asked not to represent Abdullah Bajad in terms of questions and answers, so he will continue to listen with interest.